Grab your girls and soar a little higher. Unlock the fire in you, 'cause real women don't bitch. No, real women don't. 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 Real women don't bitch.
Hey, thank you for joining me on the Real Women Don't Bitch podcast. This is your proud host, August Crenshaw, aka Mrs. Raw, Real, and Relentless. I am the #1 advanced mental conditioning specialist for entrepreneurs because building mental muscle is necessary in order to implement successful business strategies. This show has been created for the woman who is not excuse-driven and needs help building a profitable business. I will be interviewing women from various fields who are willing to break the silence on struggles that specifically affect female entrepreneurs. Welcome to a show where I and guest speakers from time to time share our methods that help us beast our business no matter what is going on in our lives. Whether you are an online or brick and mortar business owner, this show is for you. We will hit every angle, personal, professional, and spiritual. Why? Because on any given day, you get hit with shit from a scenario involving one, more, or perhaps all of the above. It all impacts you and your mindset towards your business. I have made it my personal mission to provide a space where we dive deep into the BS we face on a day-to-day basis. Woo! What's up, ladies? Okay, so it's been a minute. It's been a minute since I've had a guest on the show, especially since I have started recording the podcast live. But not only am I excited to be in the building with the guests, ladies, I got another fellow to come and join us, and I'm totally loving this ride, because the dynamic in the world is, we think different, we act different, but at the end of the day, entrepreneurship is really not sexist, The journey, the things we got to go through, the BS we got to fight through, the discoveries, the fun, all of that is the same, whether you're a man or a woman. So I love it when my guys will come on here and say, hey, let me also provide some inspiration too. So I'm super duper excited. I met Michael on IG and I put a solicitation out there. I'm like, look, we got men that are coming to the podcast. Hit me up if you know somebody should be a guest. And he's like, I should be. And so, so we had some great conversation, and I've got him here in the building. And so I have informally told everybody who you are. Michael, why don't you let the people know who you are and a little bit about you personally before we get into the professional aspects of what you do. Who's Michael?
All right. Well, I've always chased, I guess, the idea of helping people. So when I first started, it was a hobby, basically. It was helping people just for the sake of it, just because I enjoyed it, just because I felt really good. And, I'm a big health advocate, which I'm sure we're going to get into. And I've been playing sport for years as well. So it's always been in my nature to, I guess, be as well at something, do as well as I can, be the best I can at something. Because I'm not quite big on doing something, like, even though you're bad at it. Like, but when I decided to play sports, it was, well, I don't enjoy it if I'm not actually good at it either. Like, there's always an element of, if I'm terrible, I can't actually play the sport properly, then I'm aware of that, and I hate that. So I have to get to a certain point where I can do something well enough to then enjoy it. So that's pretty much it.
Yeah. Okay. So there's one part I want to go ahead and just put this out there, and it's in your brief bio intro. You are an entrepreneur, and some of us, we have challenges, right, that come in entrepreneurship, and maybe it's a mindset glitch. Maybe you're having a bad day. But I have guests that come on here that have things that could be considered a hindrance or an obstacle but they're not going anywhere. It's something that they have to live with day in and day out and still keep beasting at this game. So what are your personal quote unquote afflictions that you're wrestling with in your day-to-day life that don't hinder you from being an entrepreneur?
Well, I have two health conditions, August. So I have cystic fibrosis, which affects my lungs mostly and my digestive system as well. So it restricts how much of the food that I eat I actually absorb, right? So it can affect things like my energy levels and all that sort of stuff. But I'm also diabetic. So this is something that some people, I guess, understand what diabetes does in relation to blood sugar and all those things. But it's got nothing to do with like the fact that I've been eating badly for years, because I haven't, because used to be a personal trainer, so I'd eat reasonably well. Basically, I got tested, and the nurse said it isn't about what you're eating, Mike. It's how your body's reacting. There's nothing we can do about it. So I was like, oh, okay, awesome, epic. So it was it was something that I sort of took under my wing a little bit. It was kind of like, well, I've got things that I've just got to do. I've got things I've just got to do to get by, to manage the conditions, and then whatever else I do, whatever else I manage to do, whether that be work or business or fun, we like to have fun as well, is on top of that. It's extra. It's a bonus, and sometimes it's something that people don't, I guess, understand. Because you don't realize that these things do take time, right? Whether you're growing a business, whether you're looking after yourself, whether you've got treatments or medication or whatever it is, they all take time. And we all have only so much time in the day when we can function properly. And you've got to work with that. You've got to work with the hand that you're dealt. And fortunately, I guess, the diabetes came much after the cystic fibrosis. So I was born with CF. But my diabetes was around, I was in my 20s when I was diagnosed. So I had got used to doing things for health conditions. So when I was diabetic, I was like, okay, well, I'll just do this as well then. Like, it wasn't as big of a hit in terms of what I had to do to get by. But it's still, I have to manage it. I can't have a week off, I can't go on a holiday and go, okay, I won't do this for a week, because, it's hard to pull it back again. It's hard to regain the strength, if you will, if you do have a day off or a couple of days off, because unfortunately the health conditions do kick you in the teeth quite a bit if you don't do something about them.
Absolutely. And you're like another woman that I had. She's my first guest. Her name was V Wisdom, and she just talked about some of the physical challenges that she was dealing with. And she was actually swamped in her business and overwhelmed because the demand was so high. And so I know a lot of people, when we start talking about entrepreneurship, they're like, I just want to be an entrepreneur because I want to get my life back. I want to get my time and I want to get my freedom. And to be honest, there are certain aspects of freedom in living and things that you gain, but a lot of people don't really internalize that if you're really going to grow this beautiful empire, that the influx of clientele, the influx of responsibilities, that they're coming. And so, you get to the point where you can manage it and you can hire a team, but you still need to stay in communication with them. And then you still need to be an overseer. You still need to know what's going on. And so for some people, you shouldn't get into entrepreneurship if you're only doing it because you're looking for freedom. Because in the journey upward, you actually lose a lot of freedom and you have to navigate through so much stuff. And so big ups to you, because no matter what's going on with you physically, that's not a hindrance for you. You keep on going. And guess what, ladies, you're hearing everything he's saying, with you, it isn't because you disrespected your body. You treated your body like a jewel, but sometimes we just have malfunctions in the way that our body does. It doesn't process insulin and all of that stuff. People come up with different situations. And so we don't have time to say life dealt us a shitty deck. So we just got to roll with the punches. And so what I'm curious to know is, has your mindset just always been this way? Or did you have to come up out of a funk in order to get this, like, no nonsense, I'm just going to be here and do what I got to do type of persona?
I guess it's easiest way of saying it is it's a bit of both. It's a bit of everything. It's hard to pin it down to one thing. It's hard to see it as, okay, well, I just did this and that was enough. Like when I was younger, I was into martial arts at the time. So I did things like karate and taekwondo and all those things. So basically the nurses at the time said, because there wasn't a lot going on around CF, so all the consultants and specialists were like to my mother, they were saying, you've got to know as much as I do. Like, there isn't that much out there. You've got to become like a nurse for this kid if you want him to survive, basically. So it was okay. So I was active constantly.
Okay.
If it wasn't like after school stuff, like martial arts or football or whatever it was during the school. It was like playtimes and activities with the teachers, and it was almost constant. That was on top of like my physiotherapy that I have to do, and on top of the medications I have to take. So it was about leading a particular lifestyle. And one of the things that I do remember is I was given a lot of choices.
Okay.
I was given, like, okay, it's going to be hard no matter what, but the difference with being a business owner is you choose what your struggle is. You have a choice. So it isn't freedom, it's choice.
Yeah.
It's going to be hard no matter what you choose. So, okay, I'm going to play a sport. Okay, great. It has to be one that you actually want to do because it's going to be hard. And you're a pain, Mike, you are a pain, so you're going to have to be good at this thing, otherwise you won't enjoy it as well. If you hate it because you're bad at it, then you won't do it often enough. Same with business. Like, you've got to pick, like, when I started doing my own podcast and I started doing all those sort of the things that we now know has to be done, otherwise you don't get anywhere in business, right? Things like videos and social media, and if you're not on social media now, that's it. You don't get seen anymore. But like you can't get over the fact that some people hate it.
Yeah.
Some people hate doing videos. Some people hate doing podcasts. Some people hate blogging. They hate writing. They hate doing all of those things. But like, in some ways, I've had a lot of training with that, because it's like, okay, you want to do this or do you want to do that? Do you want to eat this or do you want to eat that? Do you want to go out and play or do you want to stay inside? Do you want to eat this food or do you not? Do you want to be active or do you want to stay indoors? Do you want to go to the hospital or do you want to do it all from home instead? And when you're given choices, you weigh up the pros and cons, and sometimes you've got to go through the bad stuff. Like I've had, I mean, you know yourself, when you were a teenager, like you were dead rebellious and you hated everything. So
right.
So imagine that combined with the fact that I've been doing this thing for 15, 16 years now, and I started to hate doing what I needed to do to get by. That included my physio and my nebulizers and my inhalers and my tablets that I'm staring at them right now. I've got a week's worth of tablets that I'm staring at now. I just hated it. I just hated the whole thing. But you've got to go through that sometimes. You've got to go through the bad to get to the good. And you mentioned like hiring staff and all those things. And so some of my clients turn around to me and they go, I've got to earn a heck of a lot more than I do now so I can feel good about hiring staff. Because some people say, oh, okay, well, I'll hire staff and it'd be great. It'd be awesome. Yeah, but you've got to pay them.
Yeah.
Like, there's no such thing as a volunteer online that will take your business off you and manage the whole thing for you. It's like, no, you've got to pay people and you've got to physically do it yourself before you hire them. Because people say to me, like, oh, I can't get over the mental block around hiring people and growing things. It just does my head in. Right, well, you need to earn more then so that you don't have that fear anymore.
Man, I'm so sorry. Can I interject? Because you have said so much. And one of the things, since I didn't brief you over this before you came, but a lot of times I interject and I stop
That's okay.
the podcast because I really want to make sure that the listeners are connecting the dots. I mean, the conversation is beautiful, but as a coach that deals with mindset, you learn that people don't necessarily always hear what you wanted them to hear. And you said so much. And so the summation of the first part was that entrepreneurship really isn't about freedom. Being a business owner is about choice. And you know, what do you choose to do? And I love that. I always like to give the analogy, like you said, when you're younger, when you're rebellious, I can't stand all of this stuff. And when I get out, I'm going to stay out as late as I want to. I'm going to eat what I want. I'm going to leave all the lights on in the house if I feel like it, whatever it is that I want to do. Then all of a sudden you get grown and you're like, I really can stay out and go to the club until 6 o'clock in the morning. But then now I have lost another freedom, because if I do that and I can't wake up and I go and get to work, I can't get the money. And if I can't get the money, then I'm going to have to knock back on that door. Mom, dad, cousin, auntie, brother, sister, best friend, you know, somebody please let me stay here. And so life really is about choices. And that's the ultimate freedom that you have. Something else that I was chiming into about you, and I always say I love to work with people when I know that they are athletic or they have some previous, you know, sports or martial arts history, because it really does speak to discipline. Because you don't become the fastest track star, you don't become, you know, the best kicker or quarterback, or you don't do the best free throw shots because you're just naturally gifted. Even the gifted have to train. And there's so many other things that you do that have nothing to do with the free throw shot. At least that's what you think. It's like, why am I doing the push-ups? You know, why am I running up and down the hill? You know, why do I have to do these things? But it's all about the conditioning. And that's the same thing that happens with entrepreneurship. All of those things that you listed. And I hear it all the time. Well, I don't want to do video. And, you know, it's because I don't like the way that I look. I don't like the way that I sound. Am I going to writing copy is so difficult. And when I'm writing and I put it out there, nobody's clicking the link, they're not signing up. And with business, there are so many things. Like you said, there's really no one part. There's so many different things that you have to do in order to be seen, to be heard, for people to understand who you are, to properly market yourself. And you don't have time to be in the land of whining. And so in the beginning, yeah, it may be ugly. In the beginning, it may be difficult. It may be hard. But once you master that thing, you'll be able to flow through. And then last but not least, I love how you started breaking down the fact that, wait a minute, because you may need help. But can you really truly afford to pay for the help that you need? And really quick, I'll just say this. I had one horrible experience with the VA the first time that I attempted to do it. I was like, okay. And I got the referral from somebody who I knew to be very meticulous. And I was like, well, she knows that I can be a tad bit anal about stuff. And I know all of us make mistakes. We do weird stuff. Me and you had a weird relationship. I sent you wrong links and all kinds of stuff. That's another story. You know, because stuff happens, but I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about when it's time to get down to business, you crank it out. And to make a long story short, for a person that's supposed to be a virtual assistant, and I didn't even want her to transcribe my podcast. I wanted her to surmise it, you know, and put the little funky bullet points on there. And the grammar was horrible. I mean, the lowercase i's, you know, the sentence structures didn't even make sense. She kind of rambled on with words. She didn't even put in full execution. And I prepaid somebody, and I'm like, well, damn, you know, in order for me to get a better VA, do I have to like spend better money, you know? And I'm like, whoo, that's going to be another stretch for me. I'm super duper excited. I'm making this money in my business. I no longer drive for Uber. I'm just solely doing what I'm doing on my own. But just the thought of hiring somebody else, for some people, you're right, it petrifies them. But my thing is don't be petrified. For me, what I did is I turned up the heat, and I'm like, okay, August, just laser focus. You're going to have to be very disciplined and very focused. And so when you need to do this, this, and this, block out your time. You don't talk on the phone. You don't do social media. You don't play with your kids. You don't do this with your husband. Laser focus. And so when I get ready to pass on certain things to people, and I have a tendency to just do independent contractors here and there, like you said, you got to know it. And so I can tell them, this is my process for doing summits. This is my process for doing podcasts. This is my process for posting. This is the vibe. This is the feel. This is what I want to pass on, because most people that want to hire folks, they're like, I just want somebody to take some shit off of me. But you gotta give directed tasks. And so once again, that is another obstacle that people have to deal with when it comes to the entrepreneurial journey. So like, big ups for all of the nuggets, man. Once again, ladies, like I said, you know, entrepreneurship is not sexist. Being a business owner, you know, there's no easy version for the chicks. It is what it is. So, man, Loving it. I didn't know if you had a brainstorm or something that you want to say in response to that before I ask you another question.
I think one of the main things, I guess, is you've got to realize that every level that you're at, that you've got to realize that it's a personal growth thing at the same time. So, like, if you're not in a position whereby you can manage people, i.e., like, it's the same being a parent, right? Like, why have kids if you can't look after yourself? So why have staff if you can't figure it out yourself?
Yeah.
Like, if you don't know it, how do you teach others? If you don't know it inside and out, you can't give the blueprint to somebody else if you don't even know it. If you roll through your day and hope for the best, then how else is your staff going to be able to do it any different? How is this? Because if someone knows how to send emails like an absolute queen or king, right? And you don't know how you send your emails, they're going to want to replicate you.
Yeah.
That's kind of how things work. Like, why hire someone to do it how they want to do it? They're doing it because like, if someone wants to send emails as you, so you don't have to do it, then they're going to have to know how you do it. The words that you use, the way that you speak. They might need even like a couple of examples of your emails, right? Like, what does your sales email look like? What does your content email look like? What does your sales letters look like? What words do you use? Do you use and instead of like the symbol and, right? Like the word versus the symbol, or do you use I or she or he? Or if people don't know that, if I hired a VA that doesn't know how I do things,
yeah,
the people will know.
Yeah,
they will know there's a different person that's wrote this thing. What's going on here?
and you lose the vibe.
Yeah, you do. You lose everything. And this is the thing, though, is that if you are not in a position whereby you can get to the level that you want to get to, it's a personal transformation that has to happen first.
Yes.
You have to change yourself. You have to become the person that you need to be to play at the level that you want to play at. There's no way of getting around that, because the analogy that I do like to use is an ant in a giant's shoes, right? It's a weird one, but bear with me, right? Like, if you're an ant in a giant's shoes, i.e. the shoe is the situation that you're in. You're an ant in a giant. You can't move the shoe. You want no chance of being able to handle the situation that you're in. But if you grow, right, this is the bit where it starts to kick in. If you grow from an ant to a giant, you can handle the situation piece of cake.
Mm-hmm.
So, but like, and there's no point in trying to delude yourself into thinking that you can handle the situation until you've grown yourself first.
Absolutely. And, you know, and it's critical. And that's the reason why, because I've seen people hire folks and they haven't had good experiences and they don't immediately fire them either. They don't like to throw down the hammer. It's like, oh my God, and this is my friend or my cousin or this person. But like, for the instance, in this situation with the VA, I was like, you need to reimburse me, you know, for hours incomplete, because what you're talking about is exactly what I did. I literally gave her the format of 3 different podcasts and was like, hey, look at the summations that I've created. This is what I'm looking for. And if you have any questions, let me know. So when she didn't deliver, you know, and of course I'm giving you the short version of the story, then I was able to feel more comfortable saying, oh, I'm sorry, you can't work for me. But if I was like, well, could you do this? Then I would have been like, oh, well, maybe I should have explained, or maybe if I did this. And that's how we start doing that sympathy thing. And as a business owner, you just as fast as you hire, you need to understand you got to be just as quick when it comes to firing people. But back to the whole thing about the personal growth thing. Oh God, I would hug you, you know, if we were in the same place, because it's critical. Managing your business, knowing what you're doing. Come on, you guys. When we talk about the government bailouts and all of that stuff, what was the biggest excuse? The CEOs didn't know what the COOs were doing, and the government's like, no more of that. Now, we ain't gonna talk about the conspiracy with the bailouts, but the point is, ignorance is no defense to the law. You not knowing can't be enough. And when we hear about it all the time with athletes, when they don't take the time to understand and know their money, they invest in these accountants and sharks, and what do? They're rip-off artists who begin living the life off of their money, and a lot of them end up having crumbs left over once their career is over, because they were not involved in what they were doing. So that's my comment to that. And then back to this whole thing about the voice. I find, and I want you to talk to this about, as far as the men are concerned. Yeah, I know with women, there's always this need to like be prim, to be proper, to be professional. There's a standard of beauty. All of these different things come into play when I'm coaching them. And I'm like, well, get out there, and I'm teaching them, like you said, to fall in love with what their strategy is for their sales pitch and how they post and how they converse on calls. And then I always have these moments where I'm like, that's not what you want to say. You're doing what you believe corporate America taught you or the standards of society have taught you. But like, I could be on a sales call with somebody and be like, well, shit, when we gonna get started? That phrase right there alone would make somebody else be like, oh, but for my client, they're like, yes, I'm ready to start this shit. So like for me, I like cuss words. I think they're really, people call them colorful words, and I believe that they are. They're like the magical component to conversation for me. So if somebody starts sending emails out that says, hey, I just want you to know that I'm August Crenshaw and I'm a business coach, and I'm here because I want to change the world and I want to make more women profitable in business, people would be WTF all day long. If I'm gonna hire somebody to do my emails, it's gonna be like, look, you've been on my email list for a minute. You've been following me. You open my emails. You already know that I'm a game changer, and I'm about making women become beasts in business. When are you going to stop bitching and shitting around and start making a move? You know that you need me. Bam. That right there, that provokes the spirit of the person to move just because I cussed, just because I was bold, just because I was in your face. Whereas somebody else, a different tone is what matters. And there's no way a person could be an excellent ghost writer and be able to do your emails, but if they don't know your voice, they can't do your social media campaigns, they can't do those things. And so that's why that personal development is so key, because a lot of people think they know who they are. But then once you start becoming an entrepreneur, you be like, well, I ain't grew up to be a giant yet up in this shoe, but I can't move the shoe, but I can crawl up out this bitch. It's going to take a lot of strength or whatever the hell it is that they've got to do. They've got to navigate through the situation. And me and you, when we were talking, I told you I live by the serenity prayer, that I want the serenity to accept the things I can't change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And you can always change yourself. You can't necessarily change the circumstances around you. And so a lot of people don't move forward because they think they have handicaps in business. I'm handicapped because I don't have this, the money, the budget, the friends, the connections, or whatever. But that's for you to grow so that you can get those things so that your business can grow. And like you said, but all of that hinges on you being open to personal development. So what is it like for guys, when it comes to embracing this whole thing with social media, posting, video, content creation? Are you guys as ticky, as us ladies about making sure we got it all together? What are your dilemmas, or what have you seen in the industry?
I think again, I've got a funny feeling that we're probably more similar than you realise. There are guys that put makeup on. There will be guys that do their hair. There will be guys that do like this thing. I've got a lot of entrepreneur friends that are women and guys, and some of them do all their videos in a day, and they get their hair done beforehand. They do their makeup beforehand. They've got outfits picked out. Some of them change outfits, right? So you look like it's been done on a different day. We all do it, right? Don't try and pretend. It's just the way it is. I think for guys it can be the same thing. Like, the changing room talk is changing room talk, right? Whether you're a guy or a girl, it's the same thing. It goes on, right? It's the comparison thing. It's the, I don't know, you're faster than me, or you're smarter than me, or you're prettier than me. Probably a girl thing, right? I don't think guys have you use prettier, right? But it's something that I think it happens no matter what. I think it looks a different way. So, like, guys might make sure that they have a haircut, where girls, some of them have colours in their hair, some of them have it done. Like, I know I don't actually like the way that I look generally. It's just the way it is, right? I've got those bit of a shift, if you will. But I don't like the way I sound. I don't like the way I look. I hate the fact that my camera's at a weird angle, so like the background's too dark and you can't see my face properly. That's just, I've got two lights in front of me, right, and none of them work. So that's just one of the prices that you've got to pay. It's like, do you let it stop you, or don't you let it stop you? Like I don't like the way I look. I hate the way I sound. Therefore, I don't listen to any of my podcasts back again. I don't like watching my videos again. I don't do any of that because it will make it worse. And I will hate it. And I won't do 2 videos a day. I might do 1 a week because I hate the way I sound and I hate the way that I look. So there's an element of detachment of the problem from the fact that it's impacting your situation. Like, you've got a problem, epic, carry on, or not, up to you. Like, it's the whole dynamic of, okay, you have an issue, okay, I have several, like, join the club, right? I've got enough room for a lot of people, right? But it's you either let it stop you or you don't. I can't see how. I mean, it's a hard decision. It's a hard choice to make.
Yeah.
It's a simple one, but that doesn't make it any easier. It doesn't make it any more straightforward, because you're looking at 2 options and we look at the meaning behind the options. So if you don't let it stop and you keep going, well, that means then you're going to be on camera all the time. You're going to be in front of a microphone all the time. You're going to be taking pictures. I didn't take pictures for like the portion of my life where my parents still thought I was cute, right? Like when you don't like the way that you look when you're younger, you got no chance when you're older, right? Like imagine me when I'm 50, but like, Mike, stay indoors, right? It's just don't go out. But it's something that either stops you or it doesn't. You can't get round that fact. But then if you let it stop you, then you don't do videos because you hate the way that you look. You don't take pictures because you hate the way that you look. You don't do podcasts, or if you hate the way that you sound, well, you're going to be hindered anyway. Mm-hmm. Like that's something that if you let it stop you and you make your decisions based on the problems that you have or the concerns that you have, then it makes your life easier for a start. Because if you don't like the way that you look, then that's a lot of social media out the way, right? Like it's just one of those situations. Like, oh, I hate the way that I look, so I won't touch social media, right? Well, you're limited to emails. Like this is only so going to growing your business that way, right? So it makes your decisions easier once you either let it stop you or you don't let it stop you. And I think, I've got too many problems to let them stop me. So the way I sort of see it is, if I let them all stop me, I'd have bed days every day, and I'd work in my pajamas, and I might walk to the shop, right? And I might come back, and that'd be my day. Like, why? But then I hate that. Like, what's the point? Like, it doesn't make sense. Like, if I let my problems stop me, I wouldn't do anything.
Right.
So
absolutely.
That's what you've got to weigh up. You've got to weigh up inside your own head of, okay, I have these insecurities, right? You can live with them and carry on and keep doing the things that you know that you're scared of, even though you're scared of them, even though you hate it, even though no one will like the way that you look, which is you projecting how you feel about yourself onto them. But you still got to decide how you're going to run your business. You still got to decide on what the options are.
Absolutely.
And there's only so much you can do before you have to look at yourself. I'm doing nothing here that's growing my business because I'm letting the way that I feel about myself stop me from making the decisions that I know will benefit me. Instead, I'm going for like the easy option. I'm going for the option that doesn't test me, doesn't challenge me, doesn't even work.
Yeah.
Like, if you're not on video now or on camera now, whether that's pictures, videos, podcasts, whatever it is, if you're not doing those things, you're not going to go anywhere.
No. People don't believe it. People don't believe it, but it's the truth. And it's one of those things where, for me, it just doesn't even make sense why every single person that's a business owner hasn't entertained, especially video. Because like I tell people all the time, you could write kick-ass copy but it is still at the bias of the mind of the person that's reading it. So I could write some copy that says, it's time for you to make the decision and pay for the guidance that you need. And a person may read it, be like, man, it's time for me to make the decision and pay for the guidance that I need. But when they watch my video and I'm like, look, it's time. You need to stop it. It's time for you to make the decision to get oh my God, I feel like she's talking to me. It is subjected to the emotion that I convey. So unless you've been following me and hearing my voice, you don't really hear my tone when you read my copy. And master copywriters, like we just said, if you don't really know the person, you could write some beautiful copy, but will it really convey the energy and the emotion of other people? So let's kind of transition though into what you do. So here you are, you're a high performance individual, and in short, you're a high performance coach, because your expectations for people, and I love it when I'm talking to somebody who lives, eats, sleeps, and breathes what they philosophize. I talk to women about being a beast in business, showing up, and they see me. They're like, August, you just never stop. And before things can get too calm, you will spark another fire. You'll write another book. You'll host another summit. You'll launch another program. You'll do whatever it is. That you're in that same vein. Life doesn't stop you. You just keep on going. So kind of talk to us so that people really clearly understand, what do you do for people that work with you?
Well, I like the fact that you said that I do practice what I preach, because over the years, since I was a personal trainer and people realized that I had a lung condition and I was fitter than some of those people, and they were like, oh, I haven't got an excuse anymore. Like, why am I moaning about being fitter than a personal trainer in theory, but I'm not doing anything with the positivity that I actually have? Like, people don't realize how good their situation is. Yeah. But because it's normal for them, they just go about their day as if there's nothing wrong. Where someone that has the struggle, someone that sees the fact, okay, well, Mike looks like the same as everybody else. Like, why? He hasn't got health conditions. What the heck's wrong with this guy? Is he telling the truth? Is he telling lies? Is he, and it's true, right? I'm not going to prove it, but like, you've got to realize that there is a level that you want to play at, and they have minimum requirements. That's the way it is, right? You can't get around that, right? If you want to impact the world and you want to improve the lives of people, right? I believe entrepreneurs are problem solvers, so
professional.
You have to be a solution professional, right? You've got to be the person that solves problems. Now, to put yourself in that position, there's a high bar for that. Like, not everyone can do that. Not everyone can put yourself in that position. So when people first start to, I guess, realize that the goals that they have minimum requirements. And then it's like, right, well, if you want to actually achieve them, like, quickly, then you've got to do more than the minimum requirements. Like, you can't just, you can't, like, if I do the minimum requirements for my health, right, I just about get by.
Yeah.
But no, I train every day. I'm going to buy a bike when I move to another country in a couple of weeks. And like, you've got to do it. Like, so someone said to me, oh, you need to buy a car if you're going to get about on the island. And then I thought, car's lazy. Get a bike, Mike. You're not unfit, get a bike. So you've got to realize that if you want to achieve something faster than normal, which normal's very slow, by the way, for those of you that are listening, you've got to actually do more. You've got to be the person that can do those things. So if you want to grow your business, you've got to think, right, if I want to provide like clean water to a particular country, it's like, right, well, you've got to earn the money, you've got to be available to do that, you've got to come up with the resources. Like, I thought, oh, wouldn't it be great if I could run a country on solar power? I can't do it because I'm not an engineer, but there are people out there that can. And if you don't have the knowledge to do it, then you've got to find it. If you don't have the resources to do it, you've got to use what you have. There's only so far you can take it before you've actually got to do stuff.
Yeah.
You can't, you can't get round that. Like, I used to be just a mindset coach, right? Like, it was about positivity. It was about visualizing where you want to go. It was about finding the feeling that you want to have before you do the things. And I thought, well, that works, but then I'm in the same box as the people that sit on Mayflowers and think they're going to meditate their way to $1 million, right? And it doesn't work. So I transitioned away from that because business owners, they don't want a mindset coach. It doesn't work. Someone needs to sit with them and go, yes, you need to focus on your mindset. You've got to focus on growing yourself, but that shouldn't, it's not a substitution. You've got to do it as well as do the strategy that works. You can't get around that, but you can engineer your day, engineer your half a day or whatever it is, so that you can do the best that you can with the time that you have. So luckily, the people that I work with are extraordinarily committed. Like, they go, you know what? Like, whatever you tell me, I will do it. It might look a bit different from the way that you tell me, but I am going to do it. And, you know, I find that someone that is like, oh, well, I just want a mindset coach to help me feel good and everything will work out. No, like, it doesn't. You don't get what you hope. You don't get what you want. You don't get what you desire. You don't get what you wish for. You don't get what you pray for or visualize or meditate for. You get what you actually go after. Yeah. Because, like, I did it. I spent years hoping, years going through the motions, years pretending, years thinking that, oh, well, I'll try and figure it out. Years of, like, things happen to people. And that was it. Like, it's either going to happen to me or it's not. And the problem is it doesn't. Like, when because I've got under the hood recently, only recently, last year or so, and people that do really well is that they start it themselves.
Yeah.
So they're getting the interviews. I got this one with you. You didn't reach out to me. Like, it didn't happen to me. I had to go out and get it.
Absolutely.
Like, all the people that I've spoken to on my own podcast, I've had to go and get. I've had one or two that have come to me and said, I would love to be on your show. But apart from that, I've had to send the emails. I've had to send the messages on Facebook, Instagram, figure out, like, do they hang out on Snapchat? Maybe I should get a Snapchat account. Never used it. But if I message them, they're more likely to see it.
Yeah.
So you start to go about your life based on, you've got to make it happen before it starts to actually happen to you.
Yes.
You've got to chase it first. And then people realize that, like, oh, he's putting himself out there. He's doing it himself. Like, he's putting himself out there. Yeah. And then the things start to come back. Like, there's a few of my friends that, they're on, like, top 100 lists and won awards. I think I got Young Entrepreneur of the Year, like, years ago. And, like, I applied for that. So, like, I did that. And my agent didn't do it. My best friend didn't do it to pretend that it was them, but it was really me. Like, I went and I applied for the award. Yeah. I put my story forwards. And I went to the award dinner. I looked like the penguin off Batman for the first time in about, you know, how many years. And I actually won it. Now, yes, there is another side to that of I didn't think I deserved it because I put myself forwards for it. But they could have still said no.
Exactly.
So when you think about it, no one's going to know you exist until you actually tell people that you exist. And after that, people start to assume that you exist. And they then start to go after you. But it never ever starts that way. That's everything from clients to opportunities to book deals to speaking engagements to podcasts to anything. It starts off, you've got to be proactive before things start to come to you, and then you can then start to be reactive.
Absolutely. Man, Once again, a gazillion jewels. And ladies, has he said anything that you guys haven't freaking heard before? I mean, I even got the title for your podcast. It's Extraordinarily Committed. Those were like the two key words that just like rang to my heart. And it's so important. And it's funny because we're recording this podcast after I just had a fit in my group, because there were some people that had kind of changed their behaviors, and you know, they like, there was this, oh, you're kind of pushing really hard, you're pushing, and I'm like, wait a minute, you gave me this extraordinary goal. You know, you can't tell me you want to leave your job in 6 months and then I tell you, oh, well, just post once a week on social media. You know what I'm saying? No, I'm going to tell you, like you said, not just the baseline, not just what the minimum requirements, but if you're going to get to that place, you know. And I have this one client that I reference all the time because I still have yet to have a client that has superseded her work ethic. I'm like, you need to outdo what she did. She did this, and this, but in 9 months, she left her job. So it's not like I'm going to tell you to do something that doesn't work. And then I'll give them some examples of some other people. But like you said, it's the people that are extraordinarily committed, who don't just want the baseline, they are overachievers. And it makes me think about a podcast episode I recorded months back that I forgot the title of it, but it was basically that average doesn't get average. Because I was watching this video and it was like, if you want an average life, then you do average things. And I was just sitting there listening, and it is one of these videos that's got like millions of shares. And I was like, that's some bullshit. Because if I'm an average wife, if I do average things, I cook, I clean, I wash the clothes, maybe lay down and screw them a couple of times a week, that is not going to be a fulfilling relationship. If I'm just an average parent, well, they get fed, I comb their hair and make sure that they, you know, get education, and, you know, they come home and they have a nice place to live. I'm not going to have kids that are in love with me. When you do average, then that's when you get the piece of shit jobs. The people that did average are still getting paid $7-something a goddamn hour here in Georgia. And back in the day, in 1995, when I was able to start making $10 an hour, $10 an hour wasn't enough then. Inflation is off the freaking chain. The minimum, you know, minimum wage in certain places is still barely $8 here in the United States. It has literally, it hasn't even doubled, because it was $4.25. Y'all dating the hell out of myself. I graduated in 1994. It was $4.25 then. And some of those same places have barely even gotten close to $8. But the cost of gas, it used to be 60 cents. But now it's well over, it's like $2.40. It's 4 times the amount. Come on, you guys, a loaf of bread, a gallon of milk, a fucking potato, the cost of goods and services, the inflation is freaking real. And the only way to really beat it for real, is to become an entrepreneur, because the government is not bailing the people out. You know, they're going to give you just enough for you to survive in this mundane, normal life. So like you said, if you want something different, if you want something better, you're going to have to go out there and get it. And you're right. Like I said at the beginning of this podcast, not only did you come and say on the post, I want to be a speaker, you DM'd me. And then after you DM'd me and I said I was going to send you a link, I got to doing 51 million other things. You're like, hey, about a week or two later, are we still going to do this? You followed up. And I say this all the time to people. A lot of individuals don't understand that when you want to be on a podcast platform, if the person doesn't know you exist, if you feel that you need it so that you can get more visibility, then you better get out there and you better go apply and you better ask to speak. And it's the vice versa for me. I know that when I have people as guests on my podcast, when they share it to their audience, I get visibility. So guess what? I can honestly say that about 90% of the people to 95% of the people that have been on my podcast, I have reached out to them. Hey, you want to be on here? I like what you talk about. Hey, do you want to do a series? Even people that are in my tribe have even been slow to move sometimes about, I'm like, well, how are you in my tribe? How are you my client and you're not, oh, I didn't think I was qualified yet. Fuck that shit. How do you know if you don't ask? Go for it and go get it. And I even put a post up the other day and it had me a picture of me laughing. It was like, oh, so you thought they were going to come? No, sorry, babe. You got to go out there and you got to get it. So yeah, that woo-woo stuff, you know, and as a person who does a lot of mindset work, and I ain't about just the woo-woo mindset work. Okay, set the intention, think positive, journal it out, breathe, and whoop. So I'm like, look, what the fuck you want? Why do you want it? What's the expectation? Now game time, because faith without works is dead. If you're not willing to put in the action, you're not going to get it. And if you're putting in the action and you don't believe you're going to give it, you're not going to put your whole heart into it, so you're still not going to get it. So for real, the best coaches, especially when it comes to business, you're going to couple the two. You're going to be on their mindset and you're going to be on their performance. And so that's the beauty that what I'm hearing from you. You're like, yeah, you know, you can think positive all you want, but you've got to get out there and not just do the requirements, but above requirements. So ladies, which one of you all are going to stand out and show up? If you thought I was crazy and insane, I mean, look, trust Michael. He said you got to do it too.
One of the things that I said, it's been a while ago now, but I keep saying it is, even if you are just starting out, so it doesn't really matter what level that you're at, you always tend to get like less return on your investment. So I talk about ROI all the time and go, oh, we want a positive return on investment and we want to do this and we want to do that. So look, you're not going to get a positive return on your investment. So if you think like, I don't know, a lot of things that I talk about, a lot of things that I see other people talk about is you've got to do 10 times as much as you actually want to get back, because you're not going to get a return on everything that you do.
No.
So like, even if you're starting out, you've got to send like 50 messages before you get 2 back. But I did 50 videos and I then started to actually upload them publicly. So I did them because I was bricking it the whole time, right? I was like, no, I hate how I look. It's not going to work. I was a robot the whole time for about 50 videos. And then something clicked and I thought, oh, okay, maybe I can start putting these out publicly then. So you get less than you put in.
Yeah.
So if you want a lot, you've got to put a hell of a lot in. You've got to put so much in. Yeah, you got no choice but to get the results.
Yeah.
Like you can't hope you're going to get the results like I did. Like you can't pretend that, oh, if I do it, you never know. Like you never know. You shouldn't do that, because over the years I lost my motivation for keeping on going.
Yeah.
And it was because I didn't do enough. Like, time still ticks. So if you do one thing a day, 7 things a week, eventually it will wear you down. Not because, like, it just takes time. It just ticks over. And over the years, you will lose your motivation to keep doing it. And you may as well do more than you need, because you're always going to get less back. Always.
Mm-hmm.
There's no alternative. Like, even people that are out there, even like, because you don't see what goes on behind the scenes. Like when even people, because a lot of people used to hate on like boxers, right? Like they fight once every 4 years and they hope for the best, right? And they get paid millions if they lose, right? And it's like, look, like if you train for 5 years, the other guy's training for 5 years. So you're trying to beat someone that's also trying to beat you. People that watch sport don't understand it. I don't moan at football games. I don't moan at wrestling. I don't moan at boxing matches. I don't moan at tennis. I used to play tennis. I don't moan when I watch sport. Because there's no like, oh, you should have kicked it in and I'd have done better. You know, all these armchair supporters, right? They've never kicked it in their entire life. I was like, look, you don't realise that the defenders are trying to defend the guy. Yeah. The keeper, his job is to be in the way.
Yeah.
Now, if you think about the fact that everyone is doing their job, it's nearly impossible to score. The only reason why someone scores is because someone doesn't do their job, as well as the other guy that's trying to score. Like if you're in a boxing match, right, they're both at the peak of their physical condition, and it's like, oh, why isn't he digging him? Because if he overcommits to one side, the other guy will counter him and he'll knock the guy out. So like you can't turn around to them and go, oh, you should have done better. Well, no, like if you're in the same situation as the guy that's been training for 5 years for one fight, do you think he's not going to be any good? Like, do you really think that, oh, just lay into him, come on, knock him out? No, you can't just knock someone out. that's been training for something for 5 years. So
Absolutely.
sport and business are very, very similar, and you can't just assume that you're going to get an easy ride just because the professionals make it look easy.
No.
They spend years behind the scenes doing things that they don't think matter until they realize that that's the thing that saved them, right? They go, oh, I'm really glad I did those stretches now. Like, I hated them at the time, but I've not dislocated my knee since, which has been great. Like, you don't realize how things intertwine. You don't realize what works. You don't realize what doesn't, which means you've got to do all of it.
Yeah.
It means you've got to do all of it. You've got to think about, right, in sport, if you don't stretch, you don't make it this season, right? It's part of getting by and being consistent. Now, in business, it's about marketing. It's about showing up. It's about, if you can't show up every day, then you don't really have a business. Like, it doesn't, you've got to weigh up like what it takes. And even if it doesn't work, even if you don't realize that the 500 things that you do add up over time, and the 501 time that you do it, it pays off.
Yes.
But you're not, like, the compound interest is a real thing, right? Things build up over time. Like, people started seeing my stuff hundreds down the line. Like, but if I'd stopped, no one would see it.
Exactly.
And you can't, you don't know what works. You don't know what doesn't. You don't know if they'll reply. You don't know if your clients will see it. You don't know if, you don't know anything. You've got no clue what's going to work. You've got no clue what's going to not work. So you may as well do all of it, because the stuff that doesn't work, you'll find out that it doesn't work, and you can always stop it. If it does work, then you keep going. But then sometimes, like, time comes into it, because podcasting for me didn't work for about 6 or 8 months until it started to work.
Yeah.
And like, there's like, if I'd have given up after 6 months, then I wouldn't be a podcaster today, and it wouldn't have worked out. I wouldn't have had people emailing me wanting to come on the show. It was a bit of a surreal moment, by the way. Like, when
it is, it really is.
I had to chase people and send emails and go, come on, get them in. And then someone emails you and go, I have someone that I think will be a good guest for your show. I'm sat there like, what? You want to be on the show? Like, you actually want to be on the podcast? Like, what? Why? Like, what's going on? Like, this is weird. But it doesn't work until you make it work. Nothing really works. Nothing, like, podcasts don't work. Like, it doesn't translate to anything unless you actually make it translate into something.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't mean anything. It doesn't matter. People podcast for a hobby, and they do it because they enjoy it, and they don't do anything else with it. Some people have such a big show that they can live on recording 2 podcasts a week, and it affords for them to live, right? Lucky people, right? Very, very lucky people. But, like, that's just the reality of it. Like, you can't just, I don't know, I feel like I've not shut up for about 20 minutes, but there's got to be an element, and you just got to do whatever it takes.
No, I'm on the same page with you, and I know some people. I've had people solicit me on the back end, especially like on platforms like LinkedIn, because they'll look and they'll like, oh, you've written all of these books, but you haven't done bestseller yet, or you haven't done these things, and I'm like, there's a time and a place for everything. Like, but for me personally, when I wrote all of those books, it wasn't about me trying to get bestseller. It's about the fact that when I look at my vision for where people will see me years down the line, whether it is in video, whether it is in book, whether it is in podcasting, whether it is in group coaching, whether it's in one-to-one coaching, people are going to be like, August is the go-to person. People talk about wanting to be everywhere, but to really understand what it takes to navigate so many social media platforms and to show up and do all of these things, like you said, there's that behind the scenes work that they don't even realize exists. And the situation doesn't get easier, but like you said, what it is, just like with sports, what it is you get stronger and you get better. And so I know, and I realize that there's somebody else out there that's a business coach that has the same mentality as me. And it's really not about making sure that you lose, but it's just about making sure that I do a good ass job job at what I do. And so I want to dominate. Everybody doesn't necessarily want to dominate, but August does. And so, yeah, in the beginning, now I did have a nice try before I started my podcast, which meant that I had a lot of people that I was like, hey, come be a guest, be a guest, be a guest, be a guest. But you're right, it is surreal when, a brother from New York or, a sister from Rochester, when they start sending you emails, oh, I'm a real estate agent, I'm a fan of your podcast, and I've been listening, and when you said this, and I want to be a guest, and I'm like, wait a minute, I'm not connected to them on social media. It is a very surreal feeling. And like you said, it doesn't necessarily give you what you're looking for, but I've had several clients that what has happened, maybe they saw an ad that was on Facebook, or they saw a post that one of their friends shared, and they're like, wait a minute, who is this woman talking all of this mess on this video? And one of the first things that they do is they see that I have a podcast. And back in the day, I would have these moments where I would see like 100 more downloads than usual. And I had these like super duper huge spikes. And then somebody would reach out to me in Messenger, hey, I've been binging on your podcast. I want to work with you. Now, so the people didn't necessarily listen to the podcast and they weren't funneling directly to me. Whereas now with the call to actions that I'm putting out there, that transition is happening, but it still ended up being a great tool because they're like, wait a minute, she's recording all of this stuff. She's giving out all this information. This woman obviously knows her business. You can be showing up is about proving that you're about your expertise. I'm so damn good at what I do that I feel like the whole freaking world needs to see me. They need to know I'm here. And so, yeah, there are plenty of times when I remember I used to have a green screen, all kinds of stuff. I was trying to make all these videos with these, graphics going across the back. People look at me at what I do on live video now, or even what I do with video on the podcast, but you have no idea what kind of muscles I was trying to flex back then. And like you said, it didn't work. But like I tell people all the time, some individuals want to get speaking engagements. But this right now, the podcast, doing live video, that is you exercising your voice. And so you may be doing the video because you want somebody to sign up for one of your programs, but the more and more you keep talking about what you do and why people should work with you, and you get frustrated because nobody signs up when you do the call to action, eventually something busts and you start showing up different. You start saying things differently, and then people start connecting. And when people still aren't signing up, when you have that tenacity, you're like, what in the world is going on? And so then maybe you start researching, what is, sales copy or something like that, or how to do webinars or video presentations, and you build that muscle. But you've done all those hundreds of videos where nobody was buying your shit. And then finally you start perfecting the craft and you do something and it works, and somebody clicks the link or they say they want to work with you, and then you start doing it more, and there's discomfort because you're embarrassed because it doesn't feel good. And then eventually it gets easier, and then you go to the next thing where you have that next level of discomfort. This is the evolutionary process that is continuously consistent in entrepreneurship. If you are constantly wanting to be a better person and slay this thing, you're going to continually go through it, because complacency is not an option. A complacent entrepreneur is no entrepreneur at all. If you ladies didn't get anything from this podcast recording, you should have gotten that you need to be extraordinarily committed to this journey. And for the fellas, because some of you guys listen to, you need to be extraordinarily committed. Michael, you have been a fabulous guest. I knew that when we had the connection call that you would be. You have dropped so many jewels. You've told some people some phenomenal things. Let the ladies and the gentlemen that listen know where to find you. You guys know that you can go on the site, you can click the links, join the groups, follow them on social media, but talk to them about where you like to be most active and where they can find you at.
Well, there's two places mostly, aside from my own podcast. So I'm on Instagram quite a bit. So I do stories a lot. So everything from like polls and videos and pictures, I do all kinds on there. Also Facebook, I've got my own group, which is called Project Impact. So I work with people that want to create like an ecosystem, which is their business, but also something that sort of scratches their like help the world itch, if you will, and they want to help the world as well. And it does take money, it does take resources, and the business helps them do that. So sometimes it's the business that does it, like I mentioned, like giving clean water to a country that hasn't got it. If they can make enough money to survive on that, then great. But some people have to sell products, they have to sell services, they have to have an ecosystem that is a business that funds their more like philanthropy endeavors, if you will. So that's what I help people do. I help people figure out what theirs is. And then, because I feel amazing when I help people. And when I help people do things that I would love to do, whether I don't have the resources myself, I don't have the knowledge myself, but they do, and I can help them do it. Like serving through people, like helping through others is something that I've become very passionate about. And that's what Project Impact's all about. I do lives all the time, I do videos all the time. My podcast is Business on the Beach, which is a bit of a weird one because like as soon as I did it, I thought, I've got a 4-hour work week, my podcast, because people like, I listened to an interview with Tim Ferriss when he come up with the title for his book. It was like people thought, I only have to work 4 hours a week. I said, no, that's not true, is it? He helps you work effectively and delegate and make the right decisions and make the right choices so that you can be more efficient. That's what his book's all about. Same with my podcast. The podcast isn't about how to live on a beach and make sure the business does like $1 million, right? It's not one of those things, and people will take it to mean that, but I do live in Gran Canaria at the moment. I'm moving to Lanzarote next month. So I do live somewhere that is considered quite a nice place to live. And people do holiday here. People would love to live here. And I am. And I thought, well, it's not just about the business that you have. It's about the life that you live. And that's a big part of what I do. It's about being meaningful, it's about being fulfilled, and it's about enjoying your life at the same time. So that's what I'm all about. That's my mission. And considering how I started, I'd like to think I'm doing okay. So if you want to join me, feel free. The podcast is, at the moment, it's on Spotify, iTunes, places like that. But yeah, I'm really excited about the mission that I'm on, and I hope people can come along for the ride.
Yes. Well, ladies, you heard it. Follow him, okay? So I can honestly say that this podcast episode fit the title and the tagline, Real Women Don't Bitch, We Get Shit Done. Ladies, get out there and be extraordinarily committed. Michael, thank you again for being here. This has been fabulous. We're going to have to pick another topic and later on have you come back and be a guest again because you were extraordinary.
I appreciate it. Thanks, August.
You're welcome. All right. Bye, ladies. Thank you for joining me today. Remember to cultivate a mindset that is biased towards taking action. No bitching, whining, or complaining. Here, our mantra is, real women don't bitch, we get shit done. See you next week as I continue to bring you what you need to keep your head in the game and beast your business. Don't forget to hit subscribe and leave us a 5-star review. Would you like a specific topic covered? Have a question you would like answered live? Then head on over to realwomendontbitchpodcast.com. Subscribe to my email list, hit me up, and I got you. Interested in being a guest speaker? You walk the walk? Then you can sign up on the website too. This is your #1 advanced mental conditioning specialist for entrepreneurs, Mrs. Raw, Real, and Relentless. Signing out. Deuces.
Inspire, empower, grab your girls and soar a little higher. Unlock the fire in you, 'cause real women don't bitch, no. Real women don't, 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 real women don't.